I told you after the June 27th presidential debate that I will come to you and tell you if I believe that the pressure on Joe Biden to step aside gets to a point that I start thinking this genuinely, plausibly is starting to look like a realistic outcome. We are now at that point, and I am going to tell you why. I want to remind you, if you're going to email me and say, David, you're causing a problem by even mentioning this, you should pretend it doesn't exist because you're buying into this, that, and boosting or what. I report to you what is going on. 2 weeks ago, I reported to you that it seems the predominant view of Democrats, with a few exceptions, is that the best case scenario involves Joe Biden staying as the nominee. That has shifted, and no one benefits if I pretend everything is fine and this isn't going on. It reminds me of the Naked Gun scene where there's a house exploding, a building exploding, and Leslie Nielsen is saying, nothing to see here, please disperse. And you see massive explosions in the background. So let me tell you what has changed. Nancy Pelosi, top Democrat in the House, Nancy Pelosi, one of the top Democrats, privately told President Biden, polls show you can't win and you will make us lose the House. Biden reportedly became defensive. President Biden said during his recent press conference that what would get him to step down is if he became convinced, based on what he is told, that he cannot win. Nancy Pelosi, behind closed doors, is telling President Biden, you cannot win. You will make us lose the House, which we already don't have, by the way. And Biden became defensive. Nancy Pelosi, that's a big deal. Secondly, Chuck Schumer, top Senate Democrat, Chuck Schumer, said to President Biden, it would be best for you to end your candidacy. That's according to ABC News. This was a private meeting. Quote, Schumer forcefully made the case that it would be better for Biden, better for the Democratic Party, and better for the country if he were to bow out. Jonathan Karl from ABC said there has been no denial from Schumer's camp. The senator's office said Leader Schumer conveyed the views of his caucus. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has made similar statements. That is another top Democrat in the House. And finally, Adam Schiff, a member of the House of Representatives, top member, one of the more well-known Democratic congressmen, has called for President Biden to pass the torch. You'll recall Adam Schiff is running for Senate. I interviewed him on the program about that. He said, quote, a second Trump presidency will undermine the very foundation of our democracy, and I have serious concerns about whether the president can defeat Donald Trump in November. While the choice to withdraw from the campaign is Biden's alone, I believe it is time for him to pass the torch and in doing so, secure his legacy of leadership by allowing us to defeat Donald Trump in the upcoming election. He did say, however, he'll support whoever is the nominee because the stakes are just too high. And fifth and finally, the DNC is delaying the roll call nomination of President Biden. This is a new report. Quote, the DNC is pushing back by a week its plans to nominate President Biden for re-election in a virtual roll call as the party's voters and many top officials continue to express discontent about heading into the general election with Biden atop the ticket. It was announced yesterday the roll call would take place the first week of August rather than as soon as next week. I have always told you I will be direct with you on this issue. I will never lie to you. I will never do the posturing thing. It is impossible to ignore that when you have this level of pressure from Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Adam Schiff, and Chuck Schumer, and the DNC is slowing down the nomination process, and now on top of everything, in this environment of apparent weakness, Biden has COVID. It's hard to ignore that this is a very serious amount of pressure. It continues to be President Biden's decision and Biden's decision alone. Reports are that his family continues to say, stick with it. It is now, I struggle to believe that the timing of this is going to be this fast, but there are those who are saying what should happen is that during Trump's speech tonight at the RNC, the announcement should be made that President Biden is not going to run. It will completely take the news cycle away from Trump and whatever he says. I struggle to believe that the timing is going to take place, particularly with Joe Biden currently isolating with COVID. So that is what's going on. And to say at this point that these are completely unlikely scenarios, any scenario that involves Joe Biden stepping down, would be deceiving, would be deceptive, would be dishonest for me to say. I don't know what the path forward is. Trump must be defeated. Whatever the best way to do that seems to be the best idea for Democrats. But that is where we are today. I want to hear from you. What do you expect? What do you predict? info@davidpakman.com. Many people in the audience know I speak multiple languages. I first learned Spanish when I was born in Argentina. Then I learned English. I learned some Hebrew in Hebrew school. I learned French in junior and high school. I am no stranger to the language learning process. And one of the most useful tools I've ever used is the app called Babbel. The way our sponsor Babbel teaches you languages truly works, and it works fast. Instead of a bunch of silly quizzes and games like a lot of the other apps, Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. All of Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable. They're rooted in real-life situations and conversations. Babbel's bite-sized 10-minute lessons are just perfect for me. I can do it on the go, do it during a lunch break. It really sticks fast. Babbel was able to help me feel ready for my recent trip to France. I'm using Babbel to brush up on Italian and German just for fun. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is like a full semester of language at college. Here's a special limited time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pakman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.